Over the last 8 years, we've been bringing the Tuskegee Airmen airplane and movie theater to Tallahassee. The Tuskegee Airmen were a group of African-American pilots that flew during World War II. They were primarily known for their bomber escort missions, where they escorted bombers as far away as Berlin using airplanes like the one that we brought in today, the P-51C model. There's a connection between Tallahassee and the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tallahassee Dale Mabry Army Airfield used to be a spot where the Tuskegee Airmen stopped and stayed over on their training missions throughout the South.
It's impressive.
The interesting backstory to the Tuskegee Airmen is African Americans have been trying to serve their country in a country that didn't necessarily want to serve them as full-fledged citizens. And that's kind of the idea that the Tuskegee Airmen had when they were fighting. And they thought that by doing so, they would have what they called the double V, the victory over the Germans, as well as the victory over segregation and racism at home. I strongly believe that the Tuskegee Airmen story appeals to everyone. Their story brings about the idea that if you keep trying, you're going to get what you want out of life.
They never lost a bomber. They themselves were shot down.
My name is Alan Miller. I'm with the Commemorative Airforce Red Tail Squadron. We're part of the Rise Above project, where we go around the country trying to inspire youth to use the example of the Tuskegee Airmen to rise above any situation they may find themselves in.
But if you put your mind to something, you're going to get it done, right?
The airplane's extremely special. I grew up wanting to fly this kind of stuff my whole life, and I flew it down here from Iowa last Thursday and dropped it off. The Red Tail, probably heard the story about that. You know, every squadron, every fighter group had different color markings on the airplanes to identify them. The P-51 itself is a really fast airplane. The maximum speed on this is 505 mile an hour. That's red line. It'll only do that going down, but it will go that fast. This airplane is iconically associated with the Tuskegee Airmen because they had the older airplanes and kept them longer than everyone else. For the path to even be created for them to go to flight school, they weren't integrated with any of the other squadrons. One silver lining in that cloud is they got to stay in training for a longer period of time. They became very proficient, good pilots. Their leader, Benjamin Davis, he would not let them go off chasing, trying to get kills and be aces and all that stuff. He said, stay with the bombers and protect them, that's your job. And so they developed a very good reputation among the bomber crews, and that's why it says by request on the side of the airplane.
I don't know much about P-51 since I'm a latter day. I was a Vietnam guy. I was just interested in looking at the P-51 because that's one of the best known fighter airplanes in the world. All of us that were trained in the Air Force have always heard of the Tuskegee Airmen, so that was what we were mainly interested in, just to learn more about the Black Fighter Pilot Squadron of World War II.
I saw those, that's amazing.
Today we came out to see how history was, like with the red tails, and how it may affect how people think today.
As for the movie that we watched, I think it was a very inspiring movie. Definitely sending out a message that whatever you put your mind to, you can definitely do.
74 years old.
Today we are here on a reward field trip, and we have about 29 students with us today enjoying the Red Tails exhibit. We wanted it to be a surprise. They knew of the Tuskegee Airmen and their accomplishments, but they had no idea of what type of experience this would be.
This year's exhibit was highlighted with a surprise visit from our Armed Forces Air Force. Came in with a C-17 cargo airplane, and the kids got a chance to go out and interact with the crew, and they were just delighted with that. The flip side to that was the Air Force individuals got a chance to see the P-51, which they were very delighted to see. We have to raise $10,000 to $12,000 to bring the exhibit here. I get people that I know to contribute, and fortunately the folks at Flightline have been very generous in giving us the hangar space for the time that the airplane is here. Tallahassee International Airport personnel help us get facilities. They help keep our people who are visiting the exhibit safe. I'm pleased to say that the crowds are very diverse in coming to see this exhibit. We have black, white, Hispanic, Asian, old and young. It makes you proud to be an American. If you're an American, you're going to like the Tuskegee Airmen.